Hello and welcome back to The Lost Planeswalker. You're here with me, Jesse, The Lost Planeswalker, and today I'm going to go over the best new cards from Phyrexia, All Will Be One. I'm going to give a couple examples of each color and talk about some of the new and exciting cards. There's a lot of really fun and powerful cards and would expect nothing less from a set based in Phyrexia. Starting off with white with no surprise, but my number one pick is Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines. Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines, 4 and a white, legendary creature, Phyrexian Creator. Vigilance. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines might be one of the most powerful cards from this set. The ability to double your TBs and cancel out your opponents is really powerful ability and nothing to mess with. Skrelv Defector Might is my number 2 pick for white. Skrelv Defector Might, single white, legendary artifact creature, Phyrexian Might. Toxic 1. Skrelv Defector Might can't block. For 1 Phyrexian mana, which can be paid with either a white or 2 life, choose a color. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 and Hexproof from the color until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. Skrelv is one of the sneakiest powerful cards. That ability to make almost any creature unblockable with Hexproof is going to save so many of your creatures and make you able to swing in for the win. Pick number 3 is Phyrexian Vindicator. Phyrexian Vindicator, 4 white pip mana, creature, Phyrexian Horror. Flying. If damage would be dealt to Phyrexian Vindicator, prevent that damage. When damage is prevented this way, Phyrexian Vindicator deals that much damage to any target. There's a lot of ways to combo off with this card to knock all of your opponents out of the game. It is still vulnerable to kill spells, but everybody will be more cautious when this enters the battlefield. Next we have Shrelv's Hive, and it reminds me of another great card. Shrelv's Hive, 1 and a white. Enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life, and you create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature token with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. Corrupted. As long as an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, creatures you control with Toxic have lifelink. When I first saw this, I thought I was reading Bitter Blossom and got very excited. There are a lot of different decks that put Bitter Blossom that would love to have this card as well. And the added bonus of that Toxic means that you may be able to kill your opponent with poison. Who knows? And finally, our last card is Norm's Wellspring, 1 and a white. Artifact. When a creature you control dies, scry 1 and put an oil counter on Norm's Wellspring. 1, tap, remove 2 oil counters from Norm's Wellspring, and draw a card. This is a card I would expect to see printed in black. This is very powerful and can combo off by filtering through the top of your deck and then drawing those cards that you need. Moving on to blue, we have some cool new cards that are better versions of older cards. The card I want to see someone break the most is Icarmoon Gauntlet, 2 and a blue, artifact. Planeswalkers you control have 0 proliferate and -12 take an extra turn after this one. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, choose a counter on a target permanent. Put an additional counter of that kind on that permanent. This is a unique card that gives all Planeswalkers a tick up and tick down ability. And for only 2 and a blue, this card can be played early and you get some great value off it. My second pick for blue is Blade of Shared Souls, 2 and a blue, artifact. For Mirrodin, when this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach this to it. Whenever Blade of Shared Souls becomes attached to a creature, for as long as Blade of Shared Souls remains attached to it, you may have that creature become a copy of another target creature you control, equipped for 2. I'm sure you can find many ways to go infinite with this, but the versatility of having 2 of your best creature whenever you want is really great. I can also see this just being a fun card to play with any blue deck. Next we have a card, but just a better version of that card, printed in the original Phyrexia block. Encroaching Mycosynth, 3 and a blue. Artifact. Non-land permanents you control are artifacts in addition to their other type. The same is true for permanent spells you control and non-land permanent cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. For 2 less mana, you can get this out faster, and any deck that takes advantage of artifacts on your board is going to love this card. And my last pick for blue is one I personally don't play a lot but think would be very fun. Mind Splicer Apparatus, 3 and a blue, artifact. Flash. At the beginning of your upkeep, put an oil counter on Mind Splicer Apparatus. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each oil counter on Mind Splicer Apparatus. With Proliferate, you can make your spells cheaper to cast, and with enough draw, you can go very hard, very fast. Before moving on to black, there are 2 different card sets I want to talk about. First off, we have the Twilight set that are a callback to the Sun Zeniths, cards that came out in the original New Phyrexia. This new set of cards in some ways are just more powerful than the originals. With White Sun, you can make a board full of mites, wipe the board, and kill an opponent in a single turn. Blue lets you steal an opponent's creature and make a copy of it. Black is creature removal and reanimation in one spell. Red destroys artifacts and can give you them for a turn. Green lets you get or even place cards from the top of your library onto the battlefield. These cards, I'm sure, will start showing up in all kinds of commander decks. The next set of cards I want to talk about is the Domuses. These remind me of the original Phyrexian creators, and their abilities might even be on par. All of the Domuses share an ability to become indestructible, which makes these amazing cards to play as your commander. There are very few ways to remove indestructible cards, and even if you can, well, you can just recast them from your command zone. Mondarch Glory Dominus is a powerful token doubler, and it will be incredibly strong with any token synergy, or especially powerful with cards from this set. Teku Thrall Inquiry Domus doubles proliferates and can be used with some blue cards to take infinite turns and build up any other type of counter you might have. Drivnod Carnage Domus is not only a big creature, but he doubles death triggers and making you reap the rewards from your own creatures dying. Solfim Mayhem Domus doubles all non-combat damage, which I don't have to explain why this is good. This would be a super fun card to build a deck around, but it might make everyone want to kill you first. And lastly, we have Zopandrel Hunger Domus, the creature that doubles the power and toughness of your creatures during each combat. Green already had big stompy creatures, and now they're twice as powerful with this card. Back to the other monocolor cards. Next, we have Black. Black has always been good in Phyrexia, and this set is no exception. My favorite black card, and the one I've mentioned many times before on this channel, is Krumix the Rat King. Krumix the Rat King, 1 black, legendary creature, Phyrexian rat. Toxic 1. Other rats you control have Toxic 1. When Krumix enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of rat cards from among them, and put the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I don't think this is the best rat commander, in my opinion, but it is very strong, and maybe you want to switch this out for Krumix, and it won't let you down. The next creature I want to show off is a creature type I'm not sure I've seen a lot in Phyrexia, and it's a vampire. Vron Executioner Thane, 1 in a black, legendary creature, Phyrexian vampire. Whenever one or more other creatures you control die, each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. This ability triggers only once each turn. If he wasn't limited to once each turn, he would be way more powerful, but I like him, and I think it'd be fun to play with. The next card can kill you if you're not careful. Archfiend of Dross, 2 black, creature, Phyrexian demon. Flying. Archfiend of Dross enters a battlefield with 4 oil counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter from Archfiend of Dross. Then, if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. Whenever a creature an opponent controller dies, its controller loses 2 life. This is a card I would love to see used to win the game, with an end game combo. You need to have a way to win in 4 turns, and if you can't, well, better luck next time. And lastly for black, a card that we've seen before but with a twist, Infectious Inquiry, 2 in a black. Sorcery. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. Each opponent gets a poison counter. I really like that they added this because there's a lot of cards similar, and when you're looking through them, you really can't distinguish which one is better and whatnot. But if you're playing a strategy with poison counters, well, this is your new draw card to put in your deck. Looking into the red cards now, I was very impressed with the power I saw in red for All Will Be One. There was a lot of versatility I haven't seen in red for a couple of sets now. Starting off, we have a really different and powerful card, All Will Be One. 3 red enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, All Will Be One deals that much damage to a target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls. Red isn't the first color I think of when I think counters, but I think this would be an incredibly powerful card in a 2 or 3 color deck that is all about counters. I can see you removing an opponent with 1 big spell that buffs all of your creatures. This is a card to watch out for if it enters the battlefield. The next card is a Spellslinger card that's going to make some waves. Capricious Hellraiser, 3 red. Creature, Phyrexian dragon. This spell costs 3 less to cast if you have 9 or more cards in your graveyard. Flying. When Capricious Hellraiser enters the battlefield, exile 3 cards at random from your graveyard. Choose a non-creature, non-land card from among them, copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. This creature wants you to have a copy of your biggest and most powerful spell for free. If you can dump your best stuff into your graveyard, this would be really fun to play. Red has some cool artifact synergies, and the next card will help you out with them. Soulbad Iron Golem, 2 in a red. Legendary creature, Phyrexian Golem Artificer. Tap, sacrifice an artifact, add an amount of red equal to the sacrificed artifact's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. There are a lot of cool ways to use your weaker artifacts to bring out bigger ones onto the battlefield, advancing your board state faster than your opponents can. Finally, our last red card, and I'm excited to play, is Vindictive Flamestoker. Single red creature Phyrexian Wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on Vindictive Flamestoker. 6 in a red. Sacrifice Vindictive Flamestoker. Discard your hand, then draw 4 cards. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each oil counter on Vindictive Flamestoker. If you can cast enough non-creature spells, you can draw 4 cards for 1 mana. This is an awesome ability that you don't see much in red, and I'm very much looking forward to playing it in the future. The last mono color I'm going to talk about is green. Green is big and stompy, and there's a lot of it in Phyrexia, all will be one. If we're talking about the King of Beasts, well, this creature might be it on Phyrexia. Tyrannix Rex. 4 green, green, green. Creature Phyrexian Dinosaur. This spell can't be countered. Trample, Ward 4, Haste, Toxic 4. This is a super great card from big mono green decks, and I don't know how powerful this would be in other decks, but who doesn't want to play a big green Phyrexian Dinosaur? This next card is going to stir up some fuss in other formats. Venerated Rot Priest. Single green creature Phyrexian Druid. Toxic 1. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. I am personally very excited to see a card like this. It will create a lot of interesting combos and ideas of how to break this and win as fast as possible. This next card is a newer version of an old card we haven't seen for a long time. Thrun, Breaker of Silence. 3 green, green. Legendary creature Troll Shaman. This spell can't be countered. Trample. Thrun, Breaker of Silence can't be the target of non-green spells your opponents control or abilities of non-green sources your opponents control. As long as it's your turn, Thrun has indestructible. Well, I think this card is going to be really fun to play with. It's not as strong as I think it needs to be as an instant include in most green decks. Toxic is very potent in this set, and this card might be the best small toxic creature available. Branch Blight Stalker, 1 in a green, creature Phyrexian Elf Scout. Toxic 2. I can see some great standard decks using a playset of these to demolish their opponents. And lastly, we have a creature that has some cool effects for being uncommon. Armored Scrap Gorger, 1 in a green, creature Phyrexian Beast. Armored Scrap Gorger gets +3/+0 as long as it has 3 or more oil counters on it. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Whenever Armored Scrap Gorger becomes tapped, exile target card from a graveyard and put an oil counter on Armored Scrap Gorger. This mana dork grows as the game goes on, and you can exile the best cards from your opponent's graveyard so they can't get them back. Moving into the last 3 sections, we have multicolor, colorless, and planeswalkers, which there are quite a few of in this set. The first multicolored cards is one of the most popular commanders today, Atraxa Grand Unifier. 3 green, white, blue, black. Legendary creature Phyrexian Angel. Flying Vigilance Deathtouch Lifelink. When a Traxa Grand Unifier enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put that card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. While I don't think this card is directly better than the older version, I think it's on a whole nother level. Blue and white have so many great bounce effects, and seeing this enter over and over again is going to give you all those card value right into your hand. The next creature is somewhat unique and could be fun to play. Izuri, Stalker of Spheres. 2 green, blue. Legendary creature Phyrexian Elf Warrior. Whenever Yuzuri Stalker of Spheres enters a battlefield, you may pay 3. If you do, proliferate twice. Whenever you proliferate, draw a card. There are a lot of new proliferate effects in this set, and I can see this being very powerful as a deck engine. This next card might make me want to create another Orzhov deck. Rai Ivor, Bane of Bladehold. 2 white, black. Legendary creature Phyrexian Knight. Battlecry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. At the beginning of combat on your turn, the next time target creature would deal combat damage to 1 or more players this combat, prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, create that many 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't be blocked. All aristocrat decks, especially Orzhov, want you to make a ton of creature tokens, and this card will make you more than you know what to do with. If you can utilize effects to make your opponents not block, there are several ways to win using this commander. The colorless artifact cards from this set are very powerful, and Gra's Unstoppable Juggernaut is one of them. 8 mana, legendary artifact creature Juggernaut. Juggernauts you control attack each combat if able. Juggernauts you control can't be blocked by walls. Other creatures you control have base power and toughness 5/3 and are Juggernauts in addition to their other creature types. I can see decks that make a lot of Thopters or Servals love this card because they turn all of them into Juggernauts and they will run right over your opponent's boards. It has been a few years since we had another version of this card, but it is Sword of Forge and Frontier. 3. Artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and from green. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. You may play an additional land on this turn. Equipped for 2. I love the Swords of, and this is no exception. The impulsive card draw and extra land has my name written all over it. And our last creature I'm going to talk about is a group hug card, Zenith Chronicler. Artifact creature Phyrexian construct. Whenever a player casts their first multicolored spell each turn, each other player draws a card. This will help everybody on the board draw some cards, and you draw a lot in the process. This would probably be best in a monocolor deck, so you don't give your opponents some cards. With all those cards out of the way, let's quickly run through the different planeswalkers of this set. There are 10 new planeswalkers, and they're either rare or mythic rare. There's a lot of text, so I'm going to quickly go through them and list their best ability and why you should play them. The Eternal Wanderer. It limits the amount of creatures that can attack it, and you can instantly alter ability and make them sacrifice all the creatures except the one you get to pick. Jace, the Perfected Mind. Target player mills 3 cards, and if there are 20 or more cards in a graveyard, you draw 3, otherwise draw 1. Vraska, Betrayer's Sting. I'm going to be honest, all of Vraska's abilities are really good, and I can't choose just one. 0 mana. You draw a card, you lose 1 life, proliferate. -2. Target creature becomes a treasure artifact with tap, sack this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and it loses all other card types and abilities. -9. If target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. This is a little expensive, but I think it'll be a commander staple. Koth, Fire of Resistance. You get an emblem with whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target. Nissa, Ascended Animist. Nissa, like Vraska, has 3 really great abilities. +1, create an XX green Phyrexian horror creature token, where X is Nissa Ascended Animist loyalty. -1, destroy target artifact or enchantment. -7, until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 for each forest you control and gain trample. This comes in with 7, so you can instantly alter. Kaito, Dancing Shadow. Up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until your next turn. Kaya, Intangible Slayer. You may draw 2 cards, and each opponent may scry 1. Luca, Bound to Ruin. Add red and green. Spend this only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. Nahiri, the Unforgiving. Exile target creature or equipment card with mana value less than Nahiri's loyalty from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it. That token gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. And lastly, Tyvar, Jubilant Brawler. Mill 3 cards, then you may return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Well, that was a lot of cards, and thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to my channel. I try to make some really good content, and I hope you enjoy it. If there's a card you're excited to see and play with, please leave it in the comment down below. I hope you all had a wonderful day, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalker.